Hello friends, and welcome back to playing tribute to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, the second game of that, Resolve, where we are on the final episode. As you can see, it says final right there. And the second part of the trial. We have learned a lot last time. It was a short and sweet episode. Well, maybe it was short, but not so sweet, as the different things that we learned about came to light. But we're just about ready to wrap this up. I think there is another part after this one, so let's see what sorts of things go down today. There's been a lot of narration so far, too, with this, so I wonder if I'll continue. His gavel pound is like, ugh. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, we want to take this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. You don't have to tell me twice. This episode is called Resolve. Or sorry, this game is called Resolve. But also the episode is. It's the Resolve of Naruto. Ryunosuke Naruto. Resolve, yes, that's my intention. Yep, see? I just thought of this now with the ... parts. Like, they must have their own little inner dialogue going on. Like, if we could see their point of view or whatever, they'd have little blue parentheses on the other side there. The defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? Although it doesn't, say it much on his face. Like, Naruto and Phoenix Wright and all that, they like hunch and sweat and all that whenever things are happening, but he's just like, oh, ... Yes, I'm thinking something probably, but I'm not going to show it. He has admitted to colluding with the victim to assassinate an innocent man. He should not be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. I did once. In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life, for the last 10 years, has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma. Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma's bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into a very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted the prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Sure, do whatever you want, man. Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Barrack Van Zeeks. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well, then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Shishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. At last, then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you took that tone of me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Shishiro Jigoku, Supreme Court Judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. He also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. I don't remember what I did for his voice. I'm sorry, it's been a while. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. And now I'm practicing defense lawyer. Yes, full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say. Decline to comment. See, all of these declines to comment, this makes this game very difficult if I don't have testimony to press and present to. Come on, man. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. But my decision is unrelated to this case. You can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? See, I'm mixing him and Strongheart's voice too much, and I'm trying to, differentiate. I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. And you, Judge Jigoku, are the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Shishiro Jigoku is involved in this case? In this case? Would be this. In the other case would be this. That's what we're going for, right? Is it... Which one does it want me to do?
Take that!
What on earth is that? This piece of evidence is a welcome present to the courthouse, with the compliments of the defense. You have a poor grasp of British court etiquette, Counsel. Oh, was I wrong? I was wrong. Okay. I hate when they, like, cut out the music. Okay. Alright, so it went... But the problem with it being it's the telegraph. But the problem with it being the telegraph is it doesn't connect him to the case. It connects him to Gregson. The name of Gregson. So, like, the point that it... I don't know. I think they could have worded that a little bit differently. Because this case, there is proof that Gregson was in that room between the bullet hole in the wall and the watch piece in the suitcase. So, clearly, it was among... The watch piece was among Jigoku's things. So, clearly Gregson was there. That's the proof being made here. Proof that he was a part of the case. Or proof that he knew Gregson, or whatever. Like, I feel like either one would have gone. The fact that they mentioned Wilson tipped me off to the telegram. So, both of these things connect him. The telegram is just what they were trying to push me towards, which is fine. I understand that game. I know that you were pushing me towards that direction. That's why I was in there. And honestly, that was my first initial thought. I should have just gone with my gut. But I was like, oh, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't say... It's not about this case. It's about last case. Unless that's what they meant. Sorry, I'm... In this case. See, I don't know. Anyway. There's a telegram detailing communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. This communication contained 4 names. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. you little... Wow, his demeanor has changed significantly. Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you? What is all this about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. Kiyosugi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett. But her real name was Asia Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. My phone, I'm so sorry. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of an assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Still don't know what that has to do with this case, but I digress. Judge Jigoku, what's this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard. As shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. Yeah, like I said, he never actually said the name. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Shishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. Ah! You deliberately avoided saying a name. The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then, as a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassination exchange and the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. Do they say the 31st October? Or do they say 31st of October? Because I've been saying of, but never has that actually been written. Is that what they say in Britain? In Great Britain? Like, is it the 31st October? Like, I guess it's the 31st time that October came around. The 31st October of the October Day. The 31st October Day. Because, like, in America we say October 31st. But also they make their, like, whenever they write out their dates, it's all backwards too, so I don't know. British people in the audience, please inform me. As you wish, my lord. Not good to start with one badge point already lost, though. It's true that Kazuma Sogi was assigned to the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson, and was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. Do I not have the evidence of that gun... that bullet hole? Because we definitely saw it. Oh, wait. All crew members required to assemble on the main deck at 10. It'll take 20 minutes. Oh, buddy. So you admit it then? As this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange agreement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Sogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not watched divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassination exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events in this case. Yes, that's the point I was trying to make before. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barrett Van Zeeks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. Well, allow me to change it for you. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only the government minister and high-ranking judge, such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall there was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it's not the place in this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with tangible evidence pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Tangible events, sorry. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? So much for discovering the full truth and whatever you were saying before. Yes, my lord, I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. I'm gonna press. Because I know if I show it too early, it's gonna be a whole thing. Nope, press first, press first, press first.
Hold it!
Outside your cabin in the first-class area of the SS Grouse, you mean? Yes, that's right. At least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators have taken to posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night. I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin. At that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us in the cabin while we waited for Judge Shigoku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. Why did you take a sword to him? So the crewman let two potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding? Not the most convincing of sentries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while, and then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes. He glared at me as I walked past. See? Proves it. Okay. I mean, it says at all times, and this clearly says there is a point where he wasn't, so...
Objection!
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. Nobody seems to like him. I guess the criminals don't seem to like him. I don't know, Gregson didn't like him very much either, but he apparently listened to him mostly, kind of, sort of, until he didn't tell him that he was doing one last mission. Because Sholmes was protecting him that entire time, even though he despised him. I wonder if that was just a front and they were really good friends. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were together on deck for an evacuation drill. all crewmen away from their posts. And during the 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. If that's not a look of defeat, I don't know what is. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime.
Objection!
A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. If it be true, will counsel? Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night, I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. No, I don't. I don't have the gunshot. You present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. The proof you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin on the 31st of October. It's not this. Is it? That's the only other piece of evidence that I could possibly give. Ahead lead. Photograph and letter of introduction. Oh my goodness, all of these are very old evidences that don't matter anymore. Murder weapon that was found. There was a bullet hole there. Didn't we see a bullet hole there? Am I just misremembering? Wasn't there a bullet hole in the wall that was being covered by the sign?
Take that!
It's not right. Okay. Okay, Gabe, I'm not following your logic with this one. I mean, it's the only thing I could have possibly presented, so that's why it works, but it doesn't make sense. That doesn't prove that he was killed. That just proves that he was there. Which we know. Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch? A pocket watch. And if you observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Whoa, his eyes are terrified. Well, your ways are sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? I'm just gonna continuously call me murderer.
Objection!
Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you stumbled. try me. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge she was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st October. Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. I don't know about that. Seem to be doing a good job of it. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an épinceau throw, though. He couldn't wait to run away after that. Imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London. Épinceau. A common jiu-jitsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruto, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin is in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. Yeah, I know. I know, game. That's why I said that. Yeah, you should be all arg. I have no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely a tactician, not the representative of death. Well, testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. But if this testimony holds, Judge Shikoku will be deemed to have had no involvement in the case. And then we're back to square one. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here in the cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. An embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruto. Okay. We need to get him to trip up somewhere. It's time to press everything.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean? Apparently, Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips, so I imagine the crewman was convinced. Bet the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung around his waist. You mean me? Who else? Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set alarm bells off the guard's head. The point is, I left the cabin before his occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back in my cabin. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion. Oh, that was strong-hearted, I'm so sorry. That's right, none whatsoever. But then he started waving a gun at him.
Hold it!
Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes. At the time, I didn't know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose. That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. I've never seen the muzzle of the revolver shake about so much in all my life. I would think the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there was no time to call for help with the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself. By killing him!
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun? That was a very brave move, wasn't it? My Ibansioi is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ibansioi throw.
Hold it!
The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watcher was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off, or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for too long. A bullet to the chest soon saw that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jiu-jitsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. Thank you for finally mentioning that. What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin.
Hold it!
But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, Stripling. What? The inspector was killed on the steamship in France. What on earth could he have gotten back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at that same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then obviously the culprit must have moved the body. How, exactly? Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Oh, yes, that's true. But all passenger luggage is inspected when it's unloaded from arriving vessels. I'd like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman's hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at the sea. At sea. There'd be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Ugh, that's killed the idea then. But perhaps not. Mrs. Sato? We've heard that first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them. Which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? Thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I have to alter my testimony with your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. Alright, that's pretty cut and dry.
Hold it!
There's an idea. Think about it, Stripling. Is he saying stripling or stripling? All passengers and crew disembarked at the same time and passed through the same checks at the border. Symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did. Well then, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? No. So we're in agreement then. I couldn't possibly have brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they developed some clever device these days to instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. Professor Harebrain's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruto. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet, I notice. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. So this is the story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, But we don't say Mr. Naruto must have been murdered there, do we? Is it a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is, the Inspector Gregson's body was found in the little room in Fresno Street. If he really was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin, the body would have had to be moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over a country border, that would be impossible for the majority of people. So there must have been a very special circumstance that made it possible for the culprit then. Do I have evidence of that circumstance, though? Because I know what that circumstance is. I just don't want to, like, say it. Because it is something that was mentioned earlier in the case. Like, way, way back. I'm thinking that's my thing. That could be the vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruto. I pressed everything, so I'm not missing anything. Do I dare?
Objection!
Okay. I don't need to hesitate so much with this. There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. And what is that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do, the transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. There you go, that's what I was remembering. Back whenever they were like, oh, you were exempt. When they said that back then, I was like, oh, that comes into play later, I just don't remember why. I was just thinking that as they were saying that. I'm like, oh, that's important for some reason. I don't remember what it is, but I remember luggage being important. And this picture where we are all standing together and this piece of luggage is here is important. I was kind of putting puzzle pieces together, especially when I saw the crime scene the first time. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Ministerial status. Yeah, see it? See it in the background there? I was like, man, that's important. But I don't understand why, because I didn't remember Judge Jigoku being the killer. So I was like, oh, maybe somebody just like stuffed it in there or something. Stuffed his body in there. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku. So what he's saying in this particular moment, when we were taking this picture, this lovely picture, and we were all together and it was all happy and the judge was laughing and talking, oh, guilty, guilty, ha ha ha. In that box, Gregson was already dead. It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. Mr. Naruto, surely you're not suggesting... I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Order in the court. I'm skeptical, counsel. That's a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? But inside his trunk, how horrifying! And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gori, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are. The one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh in their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Migatoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku. However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on the study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. But Shikoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barrick Van Zeeks, shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. It's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you had better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The victim's life was lost in that little... He died instantly. The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim. I don't know. Is it... It's not the watch again, is it? Dr. Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. It's always... It's always a mess. I'm gonna try the watch again.
Take that!
Yeah, okay. Now he's just insulting us. Yeah, no, please, talk me through it. Was the victim killed in the room at Fresno Street, or was he moved there after his death? There's one piece of evidence we have that shows the answer to that question surprisingly clearly. Is it the... To present the correct one this time? Yeah, thanks. Okay, remember that this game is not really going along logic and stuff. It's just going along knowledge. So this was my next... This would be my next guess. Because the curled up position of his body is implying that he was in the suitcase. Like, that's what we keep saying. So can I say this?
Take that!
Okay. A photograph of the victim in the very location. You claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. But again, it is not proof. It's not proof that he wasn't killed in here. It's all circumstantial. But fine, I'll take the win if you want to give it to me. I can explain. I mean, it's also the whole thing, like, I can explain the whole thing of what happened. Judge Jikoku defended himself. He took him in the suitcase. That's why he was all curled up. He tied the things to the candle so that it would sound like a gunshot. He put the body in the refrigerator. We can say all that. We don't have to go through all of the jumps and such that the game lets us through if this was like a real thing. But also going through the jumps that the game makes us go through is making us prove things in weird ways, because this is not proof. Just like, I mean, Asogi got on me for saying that the watch was proof. The watch was not proof. I knew that the watch wasn't proof. The game knew that the watch wasn't proof, and yet it wanted me to present it. The tip of the watch. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that the body would have curled up in a ball like that. Yes. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. You could easily have adopted that fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jikoku, but it's your logic that's flawed. He died instantly. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less been able to draw himself into that position. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting... The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of his arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor, from the inside of a large travel trunk. No, quite right. The shape of the body looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Judge Jikoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Arg. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? On the grounds of I'm guilty. I don't want you to know. I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Jikoku, there's blood in your trunk. I so wanted to investigate that whenever I was Sholmes and Mikotoba. I declined to answer that. Because at that point,
Objection!
As a Minister of Foreign Affairs in Japan, at this moment, you're not a government minister. Privileges that allow me to. You're a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are, or what your status outside this courtroom might be, you will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Ah! Order in the court. Mr. Jikoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it? If you no shame at all, Kazuma. What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. You... Dear God, outrageous! So it was you. You admit to Inspector Gregson's... No. I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Is he gonna throw Kazuma under the bus? Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. Oh, he is. He's gonna throw Kazuma under the bus. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Oh. That's right, who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma. Dude, his facial expressions are terrifying. You. You never thought you'd stoop to this, Shishiro Jikoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth, prosecutor Kazuma Sogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? Why doesn't he have his gavel? He had his gavel before. Why can't he pound the witness stand with his gavel? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Sogi. This isn't the dead end it seemed to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jikoku or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well, the defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jikoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is impossible. He was using his sword, not a gun. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claimed that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit this crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? I'm gonna present the gun. Or the autopsy report. Darn. Because the autopsy report also mentions that the gun is from people of the judiciary. I'm saving it because I think my logic is sound. It's just a matter of which evidence piece I'm supposed to give here.
Take that!
Start with the gun. Clearly, it wasn't that. What? Narrows down when the crime could have been committed. Oh, because he was at the port of Dunkirk.
Take that!
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not following the logic it wants me to follow. This itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. Itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledged that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman's sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated in the itinerary. Yeah, so I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof, that Kazuma Asogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. Okay, it wasn't conclusive proof. I get it. I guess the gun thing wasn't conclusive proof because he could just grab Gregson's gun if Gregson had a gun. Was that one of the things that was said? Does Gregson have a gun? He seemed to be... If he was shaking whenever he was holding it, though, if Judge Jigoku is to be believed. Because I was thinking, like, he, as a detective, he would have a gun, would he not? No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and finish it. We can corroborate his story. He was at a boarding house. No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. No, There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. This time you gave the court an honest answer, as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room in Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Shishiro Jigoku? Why not just claim self-defense at that point, man? If he was trying to kill you. It was that trial 10 years ago, that's when all this began. Oh, is he gonna break the witness stand again? Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. It's over. My life is over. A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. Assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. It was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Sogi. Things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at the time in Kazuma's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the lock myself, personally. Of course, there was much single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume. That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan for my arrival in Britain, so I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. I made arrangements for pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. And now we're back again at Van Zeek's. So, that means that the assassin exchange was... It was planned by the Reaper? I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Why not, man? You're already down. You're already, like, down and captured. And doomed. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission. I dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. It was all a trap designed to lead him to France. So death. How awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that morning. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. There's a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. And the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock, I intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went for me in a reckless move. received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then the victim was killed inside your cabin on this SS Grouse. Which begs the question, why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street? The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There's no way I could take the body up to the deck and throw it over the side. Precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration. And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. You I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due in Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon. To meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit. So I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. It must have been just after we took his photograph of me at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived the candle trick there and then. So I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than I would have otherwise. The hairpiece was found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45, so I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trunk. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So then Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, walked straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. I didn't notice it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back in his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seemed the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. I've heard enough. I've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough. I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. Homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can we get this over with now? It's finished, all of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Shishira Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found. He wasn't the defendant, though. Guilty. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Somebody's gonna yell, hold it, right? Or objection? Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of body. In short, the defendant's innocence was therefore been established beyond doubt. Kazuma's gonna object, because it's the whole Reaper thing. He's gonna claim that Van Zeeks is the counterpart. Wonderful! Well done, Mr. Naruto! Yes, thank you. Is something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey, this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. We have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for formal adjudication. Hereby declare the defendant, Barrack Van Zeeks.
Objection!
There it is. Objection. The prosecution calls for an adjudication to be deferred. Counsel. The accused innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Barrack Van Zeeks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, prosecutor said. Certainly. The murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Shishira Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Into the sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly. It would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Barrack Van Zeeks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey. And furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? Beyond all reasonable doubt, huh? Order. The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting that you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zeeks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself. Which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention. I'm surprised. Quite how And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. I'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zeeks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper in the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Here it is. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation has inspired the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zeeks, I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago. And ever since that time, I've endured the weight of implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself. But I knew it would be like this. And I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise. As a lawyer, and as his friend. And then that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper in the assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. Can we at least organize our evidence? Like, there's all of this stuff that's, like, old, and I think the stuff that I'm going to be dealing with now is in the middle. So it's got, like... Actually, I don't know what we're doing. But it's definitely going to have to do with Asogi and everything. Is there even any evidence for the Reaper right now? I don't even know. Here we go. Also, I should note that I do remember the overarching story, so I know what the punchline is. I just don't remember how we get there. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution? Both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey, and that you masterminded the assassin exchange. I acknowledge that acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? Let me ask you. Why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? The truth? It's always about the truth, guys. Hey, I was right. A desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense. Proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. So, do I have to press everything? Because I didn't see anything. Nothing jumped out at me. Nothing jumped out at me. So let's just cover all our bases here. So you're not what the general public refer to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey. Exactly. Don't imagine for a moment that the court will be satisfied with a one-word answer on this. I realize that. If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though? That, one by one, defendants who had been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed. Let me answer that question by posing another. If one by one, defendants who had been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel a one-word answer like that. Exactly. Well, that told me. But even though I'm not a Reaper, doesn't mean I ignore all the hearsay. Sorry, I just realized where it is. Because I knew it was this line, but I didn't know what I had. Oops. Not that one. This one. I didn't know what I had to go against that, but then I realized I do have something that goes against that. I thought I was going to have to, like, get more information, but this is the line. This is the thing. Because it's got Wilson, and it's got Gregson. I'm sorry, wait. And it's got Gregson. It's on the third page, sorry. So...
Objection!
What is this? An autopsy report. Oh, wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. What? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in the court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? The autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again, the professor. I personally researched all of the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls. And for a member of the aristocracy, like Lord Clint Van Zeeks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Ryunosuke was the guilty of murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, there was was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zieks here to avenge his brother's senseless death. What a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if it's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer to send him to his death. That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order! Order at once! 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore myself that I would prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain. Whatever the cost. Oh, jeez. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese's tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Shishiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? Secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, Karuma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right. I see. You're Soga's young lad, aren't you? And what, you're going to cut me down with that thing? Is that it? That would very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth. That's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was a professor. There's no doubt in my mind. Unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then. The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated. It's for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it. That's right. Even then. Well, that explains the sword play. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. If the results of Clint Van Zieks' autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer Gregson and the lead coroner Wilson must have known about it. And they can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barrick Van Zieks. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly. And as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself whom I asked with Liaised, yeah. Right? Oh, liaised. Liaised? Like liaison? Liaised? I've never seen it used as a verb. Who liaised with Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange. Ah. So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barrack Van Zieks.
Objection!
Kazuma. What? What you've just told the court. Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Griggs really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. Wait, what? Whoa, what? I thought at first it was like, oh, his whole world is falling apart because the evidence was fabricated and he was using it. And, oh, right. Okay, again, I know the punchline, and I remember something that has been said at least twice so far. I'll let him explain. What? Lord Van Zieks? I give no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. If Lord Van Zieks isn't the one behind all this, and then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. Ryunosuke is catching on. I believe I know who it is too. You? I just had a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey. Okay. This time I'm with you, game. The logic sticks. Because it has been mentioned at least twice, maybe more. I remember of 2 times that it was mentioned that Barrack Van Zieks was not the original prosecutor of that case. If you remember, he really, really wanted to prosecute that case because of his brother. And the original prosecutor said, sure, go ahead. You are all gung-ho for it, go for it. So if Kazuma's reasoning is that the prosecutor was the one to make this happen and to get the evidence fabricated, then that's the man who's the Reaper. Do you remember that being said? I wanted to pause and wait for you guys to, give your guess before I reveal them.
Take that!
The only person who could have arranged that assassin's exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mail Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? I think we need a new judge. Yes, it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution with the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zieks, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zieks, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined. All the evidence I was given The autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Shishiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you it's no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. Formal accusal. Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself? You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clinfancy's autopsy. That's utterly untrue.
Objection!
But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. It's hearsay, dude. You can't... yeah, it's not gonna work. And where's your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say... I forget how the system works in a backwater country, but in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. Oh, he's serious now. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder and the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. The court has no business ranking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take there are no objections. We need a new judge! Kazuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Nobody to witness is what he said. There's nobody to say what happened 10 years ago. Wait a second. Wasn't Mikatoba there? Man, I don't remember how this goes down. I do remember this accusation. Is there no other avenue we can go down and pursue the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clinfancy's autopsy. Oh wait, I didn't want to press that. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks. Even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence, and Dr. Scythe won't say anything against Strongheart. I didn't want to say that. Ryunosuke, please. I'm sorry, Kazuma. Mr. Naruhodo. Isn't there someone rather important whom we've overlooked? Yes, there is. Sorry, I didn't mean to press the button. Your silence is beautifully eloquent. I take it with reaching.
Objection!
Okay, let me... Sorry. The moment that the game, like, brings up those choices, I'm, like, already pressing A through the dialogue. It's like the problem wherever... Oh, it's like the problem that's always joked about where you press A too many times and it's like, would you like me to repeat that? And you accidentally press A again. I speed up the process by pressing A second time, but it, like, clicks into the choice immediately. So, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There is no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. I'm gonna slow down my clicks. Kazuma. Please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Manzeeks is... You guys... I'm defending myself here about how I didn't want to press the A button and I knew the person. I revealed it to you guys. You guys know that I knew the person.
Take that!
Heaven help us, another Japanese. It's just gonna be the court, the whole case. The case is just the Japanese case for you guys, sorry. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Eugene Mikotoba. 16 years ago, he came to London with Shishiro Jikoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student. What could this testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Asogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and of masterminding the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence. But that's exactly why we need witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Sogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Shishiro Jikoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities.
Objection!
But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. What you mean me? Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Sogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Only I trust that you give your word. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Sogi. That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be over. Mikotoba? Somebody? Who's Sholmes! Here to save the day. Mr. Sholmes! This is no place for an amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public. You will leave the courtroom at once.
Objection!
Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Shishiro Jikoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mail Strongheart, it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? Why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. You will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be. And that the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory. And the whole truth has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows. Should a trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along with the prevarications of your superiors? Order in the court! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices. A door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push the door wide open now. The auditors in the gallery have no right to express an opinion about proceedings. Silence! He's right! The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end. But will that really do? Since dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present that can honestly say it doesn't feel the same? Doesn't sense the same yet. What's... The trial should go on. Summon the witness. That's right. We need to clear this up before the young Japanese fellow is reprimanded in custody. I don't think it's saying reprimanded. Remanded. I almost made the mistake the first time, too. My lord, you assured these present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself in this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gun. On with the trial. Well, you hear the voice of British justice, I take it? I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence. Court will recess briefly. No intention of shrinking from these allegations. Look at that look of hope. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall leave. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Mikitoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikitoba is here in the courthouse. Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? Dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, Yes, thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, I'll have no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruto. Yes? I trust you hires this little lucky charm with you. Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards. And a reminder, if you find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one time, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to stand. So is Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deeply I want to plunge into the blackness of the abyss. Ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom. Maelstrom. Because his name is Mael. Maelstrom and confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under. Are you ready? For the last of the mysteries to be solved. now that we know the truth about Gregson, and I mean, we know the truth about Lord Chief Justice. So it's always like the chief person involved, isn't it? Because like when this happened, when I first played through, I remember thinking of Gant, which was the guy in my least favorite case of the first game, the bonus case, the Rise from the Ashes case, where he was like the guy in charge, but he had his fingers in everything and manipulating everything, and was the bad guy in the end. So it's kind of that same sort of thing. So they're kind of replaying their own stories there, but whatever. I do appreciate though that Strongheart was a character from the start. Like he was important from the beginning. He was a person that you interacted with that was, a dominating presence, and very like intimidating, but not like in an evil way. Just, he was the guy in charge, and he had like a big booming sound effects and intense sprite, intense facial expression, or intense traits, big crazy room inside the clock, which was a whole thing. But like, you interacted with him, and he told you to, take on cases, and he, set everything, but he was setting everything in motion behind the scenes. He put Kazuma with Van Zieks. Did he know that Kazuma was Kazuma? If he knew, the assassin thing. And if you remember from the very beginning, and this is something that I was noticing as I was, playing through this second time, that he asked Naruto, he said, "You intend to do everything that your friend wanted to do here." Like, he made such a deal of it. Like, he's like, oh, you want to achieve his goal. And then, and he was so serious about it. And meanwhile, like, Ryunosuke was just like, oh yeah, I want to, change the law in our country. Like, that's what Kazuma wanted. He didn't know about the assassination thing. He didn't know why Kazuma wanted to come to Britain. So so Strongheart was thinking, like, do you even know what he wanted to do? And I think at one point he did pretty much ask that. Like, you have no idea what his intentions were. Like, forget it. You're, useless or whatever. I think that's whenever he threw us out of the court. He's like, you can't follow through with what he was supposed to do because you don't even know what he wanted to do. Like, how do you know that that's? I think he said something like that. Like, how do you know that that's what he wanted, or something like that, or that he didn't want more or something. So I think even at that point he wanted me to, like, he wanted us to assassinate Gregson or something. Like, I don't know, and take Asogi's place completely. But that was fun to watch and see, knowing what I know, because it's always fun. That's why I like replaying these games, because it's fun to like see, and really anything, like replaying anything, rereading something, watching a movie a second time, like when you know the twist, to look back and see the sprinkles of the hints towards it, because that's what makes a good twist, that it's sprinkled, it's hinted at throughout the story without the person actually ever really realizing it until the end. And then when you go back and see it again, you're like, oh, I see it now. So that's always exciting. I guess this is my speech about this case, but this case is 2 cases, so I don't know, this episode is weird, or a group of episodes is weird. This case is weird. But I guess you could say that the last case is finished, and we're now on the final case. So I guess these last 2 episodes did have 2 cases. It's just that one case stretched, 7 parts, and then the last case is going to be this last part that we're going to be on next time. So we'll see that, and then we'll go through the credits, because it'll be the finale. How do you think it's going to end, guys? There is still some interesting things to discover. So don't count anything out yet, because there are still twists and turns to be had in this story. And we are going to discover the truth about the autopsy, and the truth about everything that stemmed and began 10 years ago. I'll talk to you guys next time.